Hey, what's up guys? Chris here, and in this video we're going to take a look at the popularity of Final Fantasy VII First Soldier, and we're just going to kind of see how it's kind of retained popularity here, right? About maybe a month and a half after its release. Basically, is the game still popular? Are people still playing the game? Because we've had some issues maybe with player count in the game. So we're going to take a look at all that in this video, and we do want to talk a little bit about why maybe some of the reasons at the end of the video First Soldier maybe hasn't retained its audience, but why there's still a reason to be optimistic for Final Fantasy VII First Soldier. If you guys like this type of video, let me know in the comments section below. Like and subscribe for more First Soldier content, and let's dive right into this. All right guys, so for this video we're going to be using a website called Google Trends. If you guys don't know what Google Trends is, it's basically a tool that SEO and website professionals use in order to gauge interest over time on Google over certain topics or search terms. So it just gives you a good general idea of interest on a certain topic over time. So for this, we've entered Final Fantasy VII First Soldier on this first chart. We're not comparing it to anything, so this is just compared to itself. That's the context we have here. So you can see right here at launch, it definitely had a lot of interest. This was the most interest that anyone had in the game, was right at launch. A couple of interesting things from this chart is if we move, I'm going to switch this actually to the past 30 days. And just because I know somebody's going to ask it in the comment section below, this is worldwide. You can see this right here. I'm not just doing North America or Japan. This is worldwide interest in the game. So at launch, you had a 100 on its Google Trends score. Oh, sorry, we're going to switch this to past 90 days. And then the thing I want to point out here is about 2 weeks after the game came out. So that'd be about December 1st. Look at the difference here. So 2 weeks after the game came out, it drops down to a 2 in interest. So that you can see how quickly the interest in the game dropped. Even just a week later, you had only an 11, which was maybe 1 out of every 10 people who were initially interested in the game worldwide dropped off right away. We're going to talk about that a little bit towards as we get into this video. And then currently we are at about a 3, so it's maintained anywhere between like a 5 and a 3 or something like that, basically as they come out with updates or new things launch in the game, like their holiday event and stuff like that. It's basically about 1 out of every 30 or 20 or 30 people who are initially interested in the game are still interested in it. All right, the next chart I want to look at is we're going to be comparing it against PUBG Mobile, Fortnite, and Garena, so the other big mobile battle royale games. So basically these are the giants that they were going up against when they launched a battle royale game. And you guys will notice I don't have COD Mobile on this, and that's only because COD Mobile basically dwarfs all of these other games and it makes this chart unreadable. So we left COD Mobile out. That's number 1. A couple things I do want to point out. This is going to be just the United States. We're going to get into some other numbers here in a second. Let's go to that launch date for Final Fantasy VII First Soldier, and there's something pretty interesting to look at here. You can see the trend number for Final Fantasy VII First Soldier is a 36, PUBG Mobile was a 41, Fortnite just an 11, and Garena a 56. So Final Fantasy VII First Soldier had that interest at launch. It was about as popular as PUBG Mobile, so there were a lot of people searching for it in the United States that wanted this game to be good. In fact, there was about 3.5 times as many people searching for it as Fortnite, and we all know how popular Fortnite is in the battle royale space. Anyway, you can see how quickly, like we discussed in the last chart, that Final Fantasy VII First Soldier dropped off. Obviously, all of these other games have a pretty consistent audience over this time frame, but First Soldier dropped off pretty quickly, and then where we're at now, it's maybe even a 10th as popular as these other games. So yeah, that's about where we're at right now with First Soldier right here at the beginning of 2022. The next chart I want to look at is we're going to switch this to Japan. And this is really interesting because Japan, obviously, this is an audience that wants Final Fantasy VII First Soldier to be a good game. They're a lot more interested in the success of Final Fantasy franchise, and this is proof of it right here. On the launch of the game, Final Fantasy VII First Soldier was more popular than every other battle royale game on mobile combined. So you see Fortnite, really not a ton of interest in Japan. Garena Free Fire, not a ton of interest, but PUBG Mobile does have interest. Final Fantasy VII First Soldier had a 50 on this trend line at its launch in just Japan, and then look how quickly it dropped off. Just within 2 days, it had already dropped off and basically there's no interest in the game in Japan anymore. That's really interesting. And then if we look at the worldwide trend, this is, yeah, it doesn't even appear on here, so that's not even useful. The next chart we're going to look at is, I want to look at Rocket League Sideswipe. So this is the mobile version of Rocket League that launched just after First Soldier launch, so about a couple weeks after. So you can see right here the launch of First Soldier, and then Rocket League Sideswipe, this is their launch. It was about 3 times as popular as First Soldier was at its launch, but that's not the important thing we're looking at. I want to look at how quickly the audience drop off was after launch. We talked about First Soldier, how quickly that dropped off after the first week, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, and 6 weeks. After about a week of being out, Rocket League Sideswipe, you can see it still maintained about half of its audience or interest after about a week. And then after about 2 weeks, it's still right there. It's at 2/3. So they actually maintained a little bit more interest as the game's been out. And then about a month later, which is where we're at, they're still maintaining about 28, probably about 1 out of every 4, 1 out of every 3. So about 30% of the interest. Whereas First Soldier, as we saw about a month after, was 1 out of every 10. So still maintaining that 3 times as popular. So basically Rocket League Sideswipe, we can see, just using as a case study, maintained its audience pretty well over the first month here, whereas First Soldier lost it instantly. And the last chart I want to look at here is Final Fantasy VII First Soldier over the past 7 days compared to Betty White. That's right. Rest in peace, Betty White. National treasure, of course. Final Fantasy VII First Soldier is not going to be as popular as Betty White. So anyway, guys, to finish this video, I do want to talk about maybe some of the reasons why Final Fantasy VII First Soldier has dropped off so quickly in interest and popularity. And it's probably because of the quality of the game. I think there's a lot of interest in the game when it launched. We see that in the United States and Japan especially. People were as interested in First Soldier as they were in the other big games, more so than Fortnite, about as interested as PUBG Mobile, and certainly more so than a lot of the other Battle Royale games. Trust me, there's a ton that have launched in the App Store, and Final Fantasy VII First Soldier had that initial interest over all of these games. So it's not like people didn't want this game to succeed, but I think a lot of people, maybe because of the quality of the game at launch, which we talked about those issues both in our beta review and also a couple of the videos that I did right off the bat, there's a lot of quality issues with the game. There were issues with the controllers, controller support not working properly. There's a lot of issues with movement and melee combat. There were balance issues in the game with chocobos basically running around ruining everything. So there are just so many issues with the actual gameplay of the game. I have the feeling that a lot of people loaded up the game and they just maybe played a little bit and they like, this, whatever, maybe I'll come back and see if this game's any better. And it's kind of disappointing in a way, because we see how awesome the lobby, the menus, and the cosmetics in this game are. They are so great. They're doing such a good job on the cosmetics. They put a ton of effort into the monetization side of the game, but they didn't put that same kind of effort into the actual gameplay and quality of the game. So we're seeing the effects of that with that drop off of interest and popularity and player count, simply because the game itself isn't that good. So it doesn't matter how much work you put into those cosmetics. If the game doesn't play well, people are going to lose interest pretty quickly. Now, the good news is that First Soldier, even though they're having to play catch up, it is possible for them to dig themselves out of this hole that they have from launch. Even huge games like Diablo 3 or Destiny or Fortnite itself have dug out of bad releases and ended up being more popular after they fixed a lot of issues with the games. And unfortunately, this is just kind of a trend in gaming nowadays, is that games release really unfinished or in bad states, and then they end up fixing them over time instead of releasing good games just to start. Even Square Enix themselves have experience with something like this with Final Fantasy XIV, which saw a huge spike in popularity in 2021. So it's not as if First Soldier can't dig out of this hole, but we're going to have to see some major improvements, probably to the gameplay and the smoothness of the game, controller support, maybe even like console or PC ports, before we see that popularity jump back up. Anyways, guys, let me know in the comment section below if you guys like this type of video, and also let me know if maybe you're one of these people that tried out the game right off the bat and you're kind of just hanging around seeing if the game will get better over time, or maybe you've stopped playing it, or maybe you've kept playing it, and some of the reasons or some of the things you think they need to improve in order to keep people's interest. I'd be really interested to hear that. Thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. Happy New Year, and we will catch you next time.